Welcome to the AFD Cycling Podcast. Cycling from an Irish perspective. So today we're going to be looking at the women's Tour Down Under. I said on my YouTube channel that that they were coming out soon. So here's the women's preview, and hopefully I'll have the men's SANTOS Tour Down Under preview out soon. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but I hope I'll have it out soon for you. So look to the first stage. It's from Brighton to Aldinga Beach. So they start off from Brighton in Australia, obviously, not the south coast of England. Head south till they reach a sprint at Aldinga Beach, which is also where they'll be finishing. Then there's a feed zone, and then there's an FX Queen of the Mountains sprint. Then they descend that mountain, if you'd call it that. And then they enter another sprint, and then they're going uphill until only 20 kilometres go. Then it's downhill for 10 kilometres, and then the last 10 kilometres are nearly pan flat into Aldinga Beach. So probably a sprint finish. Total climbing for the day is 1,465 meters of elevation, but the maximum elevation they reach is only 340 meters. Now, bearing in mind that they're on the coast at times, so it's not like they're starting at 200 meters elevation, they're on the coast. Not from the start, but if the height of the climb and they're coming off from the coast, it's not a mountain because they're only going up 340 meters. So you'd wonder, will there be any sprints? It's only an average of 3.8% gradient for the classified point of the climb. So I'd be thinking it would be likely a mass sprint finish. And I'd wonder to see how the sprints are contested. Will the breakaway roll through the first one? Probably. But the second one, and maybe the FX Queen in the Mountains sprint, will be taken by the break. But certainly the second sprint might be contested by the peloton and possibly lead to splits, but I don't see it likely as it's very flat. Then on to stage 2, it's Unley to Wollonga Hill. Only in a couple of kilometres, only in 3.8 kilometres into the stage, and that's excluding neutral zone, obviously. With 3.8 kilometres of max 9.2%, but average 6%, this is what you call a climb. Obviously leads up to an FX Queen and Mountain sprint. Then they descend and then go back up, and it's kind of up down for quite a while until the 50 kilometres into stage. They reach the only feed zone of the day. Then quite soon after that, there's a zip track sprint, and then it's only until about 50 kilometres to go. No, not even. Possibly only 25 or so kilometres to go. Wollonga, there's a zip track sprint at the bottom of Wollonga. Then they go to Wollonga Hill, up it, which is 4.9 kilometres, I think. Is it? No, it doesn't say here. But it's average 6.4% and max 11%, so that's certainly a hill, and they have to do it twice. Once they go up it, it's like a plateau, they come back down and they go back up, so back up Wollonga Hill. So this would probably be the mountain stage of the 3 days and then the 1 day classic. So this would be the mountain stage, really, and if like anyone is going to make GC gains, I I'm quite sure Willunga Hill is the place to do it. Nearly 2,000 meters elevation. But the maximum elevation again is only 340 meters. But that's because they're around the coast. So it is 340 meters. But with an average gradient of 7.5 nearly, you'll be feeling the climbs in your legs, and there probably will be splits. On the stage 3 then, it's Stirling to Stirling. Laps, I think it's 2 laps of 100 to get you to 105 kilometers of racing. So there's starting off downhill for 10-15 kilometers, then kick back up to an FX Queen of the Mountains sprint, then gradually downhill until they kick back up to a feed zone, a zip track sprint, then down again, then up again because they're on the lap. So it's like downhill for half the lap, uphill for half the lap, then downhill again. So they keep doing that. They hit the feed zone and the sprint again, then they hit the Queen of the Mountains again, and then down and up to the finish. Probably, I think there's going to be at least splits in this, like with over 2,000 meters of just over 2,000 meters of elevation. It's the stage with the most meters of elevation, and the maximum elevation is at 529 meters. But the least elevation they have in the whole stage is 300 meters above sea level. So they're up in the mountains, but they're not riding mountains as such. They're riding hills, but it's hilly and hilly and hilly. So yeah, I would think there'd be a reduced group going to the finish. And now on to the one day classic, which is a couple of days after the end of the actual women's Tour Down Under. So it's the same as the last stage of the men's Tour Down Under, I believe. So it's the Schwalbe one day called. So it's just laps, very short lap of 4.5 kilometers. They do 20 times. The total race distance is 90 kilometers after the whole 20 laps. Total climbing is 768 meters of elevation accumulated during the whole race. There's one FX Queen of the Mountains sprint. Even though they go over 20 times, it's only contested twice. So yeah, it's not really what you call a mountain, but there's points up for grabs, and probably you'll be seeing breaks go for that to try. So it's counted in the overall Tour Down Under, I think. I'm not quite sure how it works, but I'm pretty sure that that's how they accumulate it that day. Oh no, it is every lap, the Queen of the Mountains sprint, sorry. But most laps anyway. And then there's a sprint on the line on lap 4 and lap 12 on the line, like for zip track sprint points. And also there's a feed zone at that line as well, so they'll be going around 20 times. If you're a fan, it's a good place to see them. You'll see them coming around 20 times. Probably bunch sprint, really. Like, I don't see any other outcome than a bunch sprint. Like, it's practically a criterium, even. But no, I think it will be a bunch sprint at the end. So thanks for listening to this episode of the AFD Cycling Podcast. So yeah, looking forward to the Tour Down Under, first UCI race of the year. Looking forward to the women's and the men's race. Not quite sure the full start list of the men's race or the women's race either, so if I am going to go through the start list and highlight the biggest contenders, I'll probably end up doing that closer to the start of the race. But yeah, so it's the women's first, then the men's. I think it's going to be good racing. Probably going to be warm weather in Australia for this race. So yeah, and yeah, great to see it. So I'll have the preview out for the men's Tour Down Under soon. Let's hope. And yeah, thanks for listening.